Hey, what up, YouTube? Dreamhack right here. I just want to talk about a little bit about Dreamhack Denver and the Fox Puff problem, I will call it. Okay. So Dreamhack Denver. All right. I think, admittedly, I only really watched top eight, but it went pretty good. It was all right. The two mango acts sets are probably the most fun for me. Oh, another notable thing about the top eight. I'm looking at the bracket right now. Another notable thing about the top eight was Chudat and Mewtwo King. Some kind of set that was. I believe game one, Mewtwo King went Marth and Chudat went Ice Climbers, and then after that, Chudat won that game. So I think Mewtwo King went Ganon, won game two. He actually somehow. No, he either won game two or he won game three. But I think he won in Ganon Ice Climbers. I think. Okay. He won in Ganon Ice Climbers either game two or game three, I forgot. And then game four, somehow, um, Mewtwo King stayed Ganon and Shootout went Fox on FD. And I actually beat Mewtwo King's Ganon pretty convincingly there. So that was interesting. That was different. I definitely did not expect to see Mewtwo King and Shootout playing Fox Ganon in top eight of a semi-major tournament. So I was to be honest, shout out to True Dat for that one. That was funny. I enjoyed him going Fox. His Fox is interesting to say the least. Um, okay, there's Axe F. I didn't watch much of that, but Axe put out the Falco, and it didn't work out. And yeah, he ended up winning the set anyway. It was a very close set. I forgot how it ended, but I think the way it ended was pretty crazy. S2J beat Chudat. Pretty cool. And then Axe beat S2J. What else? What else? And then Hungry Box just ran through winners. He beat S2J 3-0, beat Mango 3-2 in winners finals, then beat Mango 3-1 in grand finals. Honestly, I'm sort of surprised Mango even got, well, honestly, I'm sort of surprised Mango even got second. Mango's like, Mango's a very solid third place right now, in my opinion. And, like, he's going to be third at the end of the year. Like, I don't really see there being any way that's going to have, like, I don't really see there being any situation where he's not third. He could literally just, like, tank and, like, be awful the next few tournaments, and I think he's going to get third. Well, I wouldn't say that, but he could be pretty awful the next few tournaments and probably still get third overall. I think there's no one really more deserving of it than him because Mewtwo King has been a little bit more has had I think has had like notably worse results, I believe. And there was a point at this year where Mango was very arguably the number two player in the world. Like after Royal Flush, SmashCon, like the late summer type time. So at that point, you can make a pretty legitimate argument. Mango is number two in the world. So I think he's definitely fallen off a little bit since then, but I think he's still a very, very solid pick for number three. I don't really think I used to have Mewtwo King and Mango like even at number three, but I don't really think you can say that anymore. Right now, I'd say it's like H-Box, Armada, Mango, Mewtwo King. Honestly, you could maybe even put Plub above Mewtwo King, but I have to think about that some more. Maybe I'll do a rankings video later. Let me know if you guys would be interested in something like that. But I think I talked about the top eight enough. Let me go into the Fox Puff problem that I was talking about. Now, I'm calling it a problem, but it's not like. I think it kind of undersells what I'm trying to say in order to just call it a problem. So let me see if I can try and like put some context around this so you guys can get what I'm saying. So you hear the complaints a lot. So if you like go and like read like what people say about stuff, like you hear the complaints of like, especially in this time where HBox is like probably the number one player in the world, most likely is. Um, when you see that, I just followed up with stuff like, HBox is killing melee or whatever, something like that. Which I think is a stupid thing to say personally. I don't think HBox coming close to killing melee, but I do think a pretty legitimate complaint to have is that melee is kind of having some stagnancy. Like it's getting kind of stale or stagnant. Um, I think that's a legitimate complaint to have personally. because there is a lot that's very. Because for example, like if you look at the Big House 7 top 8, where H Blocks went on that crazy losers run, props to him for doing that because that was insane. Um, if you look at that tournament and you look at the top 8, you count the sets that are Fox Puff, and it's 50% of them. It's 6 out of 12 sets were the Fox Puff matchup. Now, this is where I kind of think some of the complaints come from. Because you have like all these players who main different characters, but will have to switch off of their main to play their Fox, which is probably not as good as their main, and unless you're like Mango, right, where you basically dual main Fox and Falco at this point. Like maybe his Falco's a little bit better, but you can argue like whatever. Okay. Um, you have all these players switching off their main to play Fox because at this point it's really looking like Fox is the only character Puff truly loses to. Like, you can make arguments for Falco, Marth, or whatever, but like honestly, like what evidence is there to show that as of late? Like, what was the last time HBox lost to a Marth? Like in a tournament, like Pew Pew at Apex 2015. Like, people aren't gonna care about that sample size. And when you're a competitor, you want to have the best chance at winning now, right? Like, you could tell, like, you could be like, well, why don't these people just try and step up with their mains, right? Because their mains are probably better than our Pocket Foxes. Like, why don't they just try and step up with their mains? Yeah, I mean, like, you could say that, but then they're gonna waste a whole bunch of tournaments trying to go like what, like Marth or Falco against HBox, and I would be willing to bet that HBox probably isn't as good against like Falco, Marth type characters, as he is against Fox, but the thing is that he's still very good against them. So the problem that's created is that they don't feel like they can get to a point where they can compete with HBox using these other characters soon enough. Because not everybody can just go like, oh well, I'll just make it to HBox and bracket like for the next 5 tournaments to try to figure this thing out with Marth or something. And HBox doesn't play friendly, so he's not. So you can't just like sit him down and be like, I'm gonna try and figure out this thing with Marth or figure this thing out with Falco or whatever. Okay. Um, yeah. So I think that's kind of where some of it comes from, and like since they're not really gonna want to spend the time to figure it out with their other character. They're gonna be like, okay, so the best thing for me to do is to pick up Fox and go at Hungry Box with Fox, which has worked for players like Plup. Who even though Plup did beat HBox with Sheik before, I do know that, but he has also had victories over HBox with Fox, and like it's probably just easier to win against HBox with Fox for Plup. Because Sheik Puff is a very difficult matchup, and most people would probably argue that Puff wins. So yeah, that's kind of a problem that's created there. So yeah, like I said, you have these players switching off their mains for in favor of Fox against Puff, which creates more and more Fox Puff sets in top 8. Which you can say anything you want about like, oh well, it's a different style. Like that's definitely true. Like everybody plays a character in a different style. But like, let me put it to you like this. Um, do you not think that a top 8 where HBox has to go through a variety of different characters, like he has to go through a Falco which takes him to 5 games, a Falcon that takes him to 5 games, a what else? A Marth that takes him to 5 games, etc., etc. Would you not rather see that rather than just a bunch of foxes with who have a different style, you know? Because different characters have have entirely different movesets. So I'd argue that um, a higher level of competition that HBox faces up against with that involves a bunch of different characters is just inherently more interesting than like, oh, it's Fox Puff again, but he uses this style. Oh, it's Fox Puff again, but he uses that style. You know, you can be like, oh, he's going up against that Falco who took him to 5 games at one time, or he's going up against that Falcon that took him to 5 games, or he's going up against that Pikachu that took him to 5 games. I think that's just more interesting, personally. If you can disagree with that, but I think that's just more interesting in terms of watchability and kind of watching HBox have to like figure out like kind of have his skills in different matchups catch up to where he is with Puff Fox. Because HBox doesn't need to be as good as he is at Puff Fox when it comes to other matchups. because the other matchups are essentially irrelevant to him at this point. Like either the matchups that aren't Puff Fox are played against him by players who aren't good enough to realistically upset him, or um like I forgot what the second point I was going to mention is, but they're just like not, yeah. But the mainly they're just like not good enough to upset him. And like I think like, you can say like, oh well, why don't they step up? But I think I kind of made that point earlier where I was like, even if they do try and step up, not everyone has a talent level to match up with Hungrybox. Like I don't care what people say, but talent is a real thing. Okay, not everyone is going to be able to get to that level, and even if they can, it's going to take a while. So you're still going to have these tournaments where everybody's just going Fox Puff until they can just put it together or whatever with their other character, right? So I think the point kind of still stands even in that case. Man, did I go through everything? Um, that's pretty much what I think the main issue is. It's just like there's a lot of stagnance, and I think that's a very valid argument. Um, let's see. I wrote something down that might help me jog up something else I want to talk about in this regard. Um, yeah, man. But oh yeah, another point is that when people are saying melee is killing HBox, HBox is killing melee, then like I strongly believe that in that theoretical situation that I kind of posed to you guys earlier, where it was like, what if he was going up against in top eights like this Pikachu drove in the 5 games, a Falcon that drove in the 5 games, a Fox that drove in the 5 games, and a Falcon that drove in the 5 games, etc., etc., etc. Like, what if, right? Like, I think there would be a lot less bitching about like HBox's dominance and HBox killing melee if that were the case. Because even if he was still dominant, he'd be one being pushed up against the wall where he has to figure things out to be able to come out with a W. And when you're looking at something like esport and like in like the case of esports, like the struggle and players having to step up to the next level to be able to keep up is inherently it's why we watch sports, right? Um, so when you see H boxes getting into a rhythm of having I'm fighting all these fighting all these foxes, it's like okay, well we know he just does this, and yeah, that's extremely respectable. Like good stuff to him for like being so good at that. Um, you know, throughout all these years and just kind of doing this thing there. But like, is it not more interesting to see them face different kinds of struggle in different kind and have to level up and think about things in different ways and counter and look at use their like and have to utilize the real overall skill of the game to like go at different characters, you know. I just think that's inherently more interesting. Um and yeah, I think that even if HBox is kind of won all the time in that case, people wouldn't be as mad because it'd be like, well, this person could pretty realistically upset HBox with this character, and that's going to be kind of cool to look forward to, and we can talk about that instead of being like, who's the next Fox that's going to take down HBox, you know? So, yeah, I hope you guys kind of get what I mean. Like shout outs to HBox. I mean, he does this thing. He's number 1 in the world now. He's getting his money, right? I can't hate on that. I'm not a fan of the dude, I'll admit, but I mean, I do recognize. I try to give credit where credit is due, and I recognize greatness when I see it. Okay. I may not like him, but skill is skill, and I gotta respect that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this whole. What you guys thought about Dreamhack Denver, and what you guys think about the whole staling of the melee metagame. Do you think it's getting stale? I mean, I'm still gonna watch it. I still enjoyed watching the game, and I think that there's enough other action in like top eights for me to stay interested. But that's just my personal take on it. But what do you guys think? Let me know.